The empty seats I searched the crowd for 45 minutes before I finally accepted the truth. My parents weren't coming. It was May 15th, 2015. The sun blazed over Stanford University's football stadium, where 8,000 graduates sat in cardinal red robes waiting to receive our bachelor's degrees. I was sitting in Section J, row 34, seat 17. Exactly where I'd told my parents I'd be. I'd sent them the seating chart. I'd highlighted my section in yellow. I'd called them 3 times to confirm. "We'll be there, sweetie," my mother had said. "We wouldn't miss it for the world." But as the ceremony began and the university president took the podium, the 2 seats I'd reserved in the family section row 12, seats 8 and 9, remained empty. I told myself they were just late. Traffic from Sacramento to Palo Alto could be unpredictable. They probably left later than planned. My mother had never been good with time management. The president spoke. The valedictorian spoke. They called each school individually School of Engineering, School of Humanities, School of Medicine. When they called the School of Biological Sciences, my heart started racing. I was graduating summa cum laude with a degree in molecular biology. I had a 3.94 GPA. I'd spent 4 years working myself to exhaustion, balancing a full course load with 2 research assistant positions and tutoring jobs to help pay for expenses my scholarship didn't cover. This was my moment. I scanned the family section one more time. Empty seats. My name was called Dr. Catherine Chen, summa cum laude. I walked across that stage to polite applause from strangers. I shook hands with the dean. I received my diploma cover. The actual diploma would come in the mail and smiled for the official photographer. And then I walked back to my seat and cried behind my sunglasses. After the ceremony, I stood in the designated family meeting area, watching graduates embrace their parents, pose for photos, accept flowers and cards, and tearful congratulations. My phone buzzed. "Mom, hi, honey. So sorry we couldn't make it. Something came up with Melissa. She really needed us today. But congratulations. We're so proud of you." I stared at that text for 5 full minutes. Something came up with Melissa. Melissa, my younger sister, age 19, currently a sophomore at UC Davis, studying, well, she changed her major every semester, so I'd lost track. I called my mother. She answered on the 4th ring. "Hi, Katie. Did you get my text? How was the ceremony? What happened with Melissa?" My voice was flat. "Oh, it was a whole thing. She had a complete meltdown this morning. She has this internship interview next week in San Francisco, and she doesn't have anything professional to wear. She was crying, saying she was going to look like an idiot, that she'd never get hired anywhere, you know how she gets. So your father and I drove her to Nordstrom to find an interview outfit. We're actually still here. She's trying on blazers right now." Silence. I couldn't speak. "Katie, you there?" "You missed my graduation," I finally said. "You missed my Stanford graduation for shopping." "It's not just shopping, honey. This internship could change Melissa's whole career trajectory." I graduated summa cum laude from Stanford. I'm starting a PhD program at MIT in the fall, and you missed it for Nordstrom. "Katie, don't be dramatic. It's just a ceremony. You still graduated. We'll celebrate when you come home this summer." "Just a ceremony," I repeated. "We'll make it up to you. We'll take you to dinner, anywhere you want." "I have to go." I hung up before she could respond. I walked back to my dorm alone. My roommate, Priya, found me an hour later, still in my graduation robe, sitting on my bed staring at nothing. "Katie, what happened?" "Where are your parents?" "They didn't come." "What? Why not?" "Melissa needed to go shopping." Priya's mouth fell open. "You're joking." "I wish I was." She sat next to me, putting her arm around my shoulders. "I'm so sorry. I don't even have words. That's awful." "The thing is," I said quietly, "I'm not even surprised. This is who they've always been. I just keep hoping they'll change." "What do you mean?" And so I told her. I told her everything. About growing up as the responsible daughter while Melissa was the creative free spirit who needed space to find herself. about how every achievement I earned was met with, "That's nice, honey," while Melissa's mediocre report cards prompted family celebrations because she's really trying her best. About how I'd paid for half my Stanford tuition myself through scholarships, grants, and part-time jobs, while my parents paid Melissa's full tuition at UC Davis and gave her $5,500 a month for living expenses. About how I'd spent my entire childhood being told I was so independent and didn't need as much attention as Melissa. About how I'd believed them. Priya listened to all of it, her expression shifting from shock to anger to something like heartbreak. "Katie," she finally said, "you know that's not normal, right? Parents are supposed to show up for their kids, both their kids." "I know." "Do you? Because from what you're telling me, you've spent your whole life making excuses for them." She was right, and I was done making excuses. The golden child and the ghost child I was born. Catherine Marie Chen, on February 8, 1993, in Sacramento, California. My parents, Robert and Linda Chen, were both second-generation Chinese Americans who'd built comfortable middle-class lives, my father as an accountant, my mother as an elementary school teacher. When I was 3, my sister Melissa was born, and overnight I became invisible. I don't remember a lot from my early childhood, but I remember the shift. I remember being told to be quiet because the baby was sleeping, to play by myself because Mom was feeding the baby, to wait because Dad was changing the baby. As we grew older, the dynamic crystallized. Melissa was creative, dramatic, emotional, the kind of child who needed constant attention and validation. She threw tantrums, she cried over homework, she refused to eat vegetables, she needed help with everything. And I was easy, quiet, self-sufficient. I did my homework without being asked. I made my own lunches. I didn't complain. "Katie's so independent," my mother would tell relatives. "She's just naturally responsible, not like Melissa. Melissa needs us." I internalized that message. Needing attention was weak. Being self-sufficient was good. Not asking for help made me worthy. In elementary school, I brought home straight A's. My parents put my report cards on the refrigerator for a week before they disappeared into a drawer. Melissa brought home C's and D's, and my parents hired her a tutor, bought her educational games, and spent hours helping with her homework every night. "She's struggling," my mother explained when I asked why Melissa got so much help. "You're doing fine on your own." In middle school, I joined the science club, made honor roll every semester, and won 3rd place in the regional science fair. My parents came to the award ceremony but left early because Melissa had a dance recital the same day. "You understand, right, Katie?" my father said. "Melissa's really nervous about performing. She needs us there." I said I understood. In high school, I became valedictorian of my sophomore class. My parents took me to Applebee's to celebrate. That same year, Melissa made the JV cheerleading squad, and my parents threw her a party with 30 guests and a cake shaped like a megaphone. "Cheerleading is such an achievement for Melissa," my mother gushed. "She worked so hard at tryouts. We're so proud." When I got accepted to Stanford with a partial scholarship, my parents were pleased but not ecstatic. "That's wonderful, honey," my father said, "but the scholarship doesn't cover everything, does it? We'll need to talk about the budget." When Melissa got accepted to UC Davis, her 3rd choice school, my parents threw her another party and bought her a brand new MacBook Pro and a car for campus. "College is such a big transition," my mother explained. "We want to make sure Melissa has everything she needs to succeed." "What about me?" I finally asked. "I'm going to Stanford. Shouldn't I get a car too?" "Katie, you got scholarships. And Stanford has great public transportation. You'll be fine." Throughout college, the pattern continued. I called home once a week, usually on Sunday afternoons. The conversations rarely lasted more than 10 minutes. "How's school?" my mother would ask. "Good. I got an A on my organic chemistry midterm." "That's great, honey. Hold on, Melissa's calling on the other line. Can I call you back?" She never called back. I'd see on Facebook that Melissa had called my parents daily, usually to complain about a professor, a roommate, a boy who wasn't texting her back. My parents responded with long, supportive comments, advice, promises to visit and take her to dinner. When I posted about making dean's lists 3 semesters in a row, my mother liked the post but didn't comment. During winter break of my junior year, I came home for 3 weeks. Melissa was home too. My parents took her shopping 4 times for new clothes, for dorm decorations, for Christmas gifts for her friends. They took me shopping once, to Target for socks and shampoo. Melissa has an aesthetic, my mother said when I pointed out the discrepancy. She cares about fashion. You're more practical. Translation: Melissa's wants matter. Your needs are inconvenient. I learned to stop asking, stop expecting, stop hoping. I threw myself into my studies. If my parents wouldn't celebrate me, I'd celebrate myself. Every A, every research opportunity, every scholarship, every accolade, I earned them and held them close, building an armor of achievement that I hoped would finally make me visible. It never did. By senior year, I'd stopped coming home for breaks. I spent Thanksgiving with Priya's family. I spent winter break in the lab. When summer came, I found research internships that kept me away from Sacramento. My parents noticed, but didn't seem concerned. "Katie's so driven," my mother told relatives. "Always working. We hardly see her anymore." There was no sadness in her voice, no longing, just a statement of fact. And so when graduation approached, my Stanford graduation, the culmination of 4 years of work, the moment I'd been working toward my entire life, I made myself believe that this time would be different. This time, they'd show up. This time, I'd matter. I was wrong. The PhD years after the graduation no-show, I went home to Sacramento for exactly 4 days. My parents took me to dinner at Olive Garden, the same chain restaurant they'd taken me to for every birthday and achievement since I was 12. "So, MIT," my father said enthusiastically, sawing through his chicken parmigiana. "That's impressive, Katie. A full ride, right?" "Full tuition, plus a stipend for living expenses and research," I confirmed. "It's a competitive neuroscience program. Only 8 students were accepted this year." "Wonderful. You've always been smart." That was it. The entirety of his response to the biggest accomplishment of my life so far. Melissa, who'd insisted on coming to dinner, spent the entire meal on her phone, occasionally interjecting with complaints about her summer internship or requests for my parents to try her pasta. At one point, my mother turned to me. "So, about Thanksgiving this year?" "I won't be coming home," I said immediately. She blinked. "What? Why not?" "I'll be busy with coursework." PhD programs are intensive. But it's Thanksgiving. It's family. I'll think about Christmas. Spoiler, I didn't go home for Christmas either. I moved to Cambridge, Massachusetts in August 2015. MIT was everything I dreamed. Brilliant professors, cutting-edge research, colleagues who were as obsessed with science as I was. I thrived in the anonymity of a new city. Nobody knew me as Melissa's older sister or that quiet girl. I was Dr. Chen Well, soon to be Dr. Chen A, neuroscience PhD candidate, studying synaptic plasticity and memory formation. I worked 12-hour days in the lab. I published my first paper in my second year. I presented at conferences. I won a prestigious research grant. And slowly, carefully, I built a new life. A life where my achievements mattered not because someone validated them, but because they were mine. I made friends, real friends. People like James, a computational neuroscience student from Georgia who made terrible jokes and excellent coffee, and Maya, a molecular biology student from India who became my running partner and confidant. "Do you talk to your family much?" Maya asked once during a long run along the Charles River. "Not really." By choice? By necessity. She didn't push, but she understood. Maya had her own complicated family dynamics pressure to pursue medicine instead of research, expectations she'd marry someone her parents chose. We bonded over the shared experience of disappointing families who'd never bothered to know us. I called home once a month. The conversations were brief and surface level. "How's the PhD going?" my mother would ask. Good, busy. That's nice. Melissa just got promoted at her internship. Well, it's a real job now. We're so proud. She's thinking about moving to San Francisco. That's great. She wants us to help her apartment hunt next weekend. You know how overwhelming the city can be. Mm-hmm. Anyway, how's the weather there? That was the depth of our connection. The weather. Years passed. I advanced through my PhD program. I defended my thesis proposal. I published 3 more papers. I won another grant. My parents remembered my birthday every year with a text message and sometimes a $50 check in the mail. Melissa's birthdays involve family trips, elaborate dinners, jewelry. When I turned 27, I received a text. Happy birthday, Katie. Hope 27 is great. Love, Mom and Dad. That same year, for Melissa's 24th birthday, I saw on Instagram that my parents had taken her to Napa Valley for a weekend wine tasting trip. I stopped expecting equity. I stopped expecting fairness. But I didn't stop feeling the sting. The invitation I didn't send in January 2021, nearly 6 years after I'd started my PhD, I defended my dissertation. The defense took place over Zoom. COVID was still dictating everything, but it was still one of the most significant moments of my life. I presented 5 years of research on memory consolidation during sleep. I answered questions from my committee, and after 90 minutes, my advisor smiled and said the words I'd been waiting for. Congratulations, Dr. Chen. You passed. Dr. Chen. I'd done it. My lab mates cheered through their muted microphones. James and Maya sent me a champagne delivery. My advisor emailed to say my dissertation was among the best she'd ever read. I called my parents that evening. Hi, Katie, my mother answered. What's up? I defended my dissertation today. I'm officially Dr. Chen. Oh, that's wonderful, honey, a doctor. Your father will be so proud. Hold on, let me tell him. Robert, Katie's a doctor now. I heard my father's voice in the background. That's great. Tell her congrats. He says congratulations, my mother relayed unnecessarily. Thanks. So, the actual graduation ceremony is scheduled for May. It'll probably be in person if COVID restrictions lift. I wanted to let you know in case you wanted to. May? That's months away. Let's talk closer to the date, okay? Oh, Melissa just walked in. She got a new haircut. Let me show you Melissa. Come say hi to your sister. Melissa appeared on FaceTime, hair freshly highlighted, looking annoyed. Hey, she said flatly. Hi, I just defended my PhD. Cool, Mom, can you help me with something? And just like that, the conversation was over. I hung up and sat in my small Cambridge apartment staring at my laptop. On screen was my dissertation title page, Mechanisms of Memory Consolidation During Sleep, a Multimodal Investigation, by Catherine Marie Chen, Ph.D. 5 years of work, hundreds of sleepless nights, thousands of hours in the lab, dozens of rejected papers before the accepted ones, moments of doubt so deep I'd considered quitting. And my parents couldn't stay on the phone for 5 minutes to celebrate. Something inside me cracked, not in the dramatic, explosive way, in the quiet, final way. Like a bone that's been fractured so many times it finally just breaks clean through. I opened my email and started drafting a message to my advisor about graduation details. She replied within an hour. Katie, I'm so proud of you. Your work is exceptional. Please let me know if your family needs any special arrangements for the ceremony. We can reserve seats, arrange faculty meet and greets, whatever would make the day special. I stared at that email for a long time. Then I replied, Thank you so much. I don't think my family will be attending, but I appreciate the offer. And it was done. I wasn't going to invite them. Maya noticed my mood shift over the next few weeks. You okay? She asked during one of our runs. I defended my dissertation. I know, congratulations. Wait, why do you sound sad? I'm not inviting my parents to graduation. She slowed to a stop, pulling me to the side of the path. What happened? I told her everything. The missed college graduation, the years of being overlooked. The phone call where my mother couldn't spare 5 minutes to celebrate my PhD. I'm done, I said. I've spent my entire life hoping they'd see me, and they never will. so I'm not giving them another opportunity to disappoint me. Maya hugged me tightly. I think that's really brave. It doesn't feel brave. It feels like giving up. No, she said firmly. It's protecting yourself. There's a difference. Over the next few months, I prepared for graduation. I ordered my doctoral regalia, the black robe with velvet panels and the hood with MIT's colors. I booked a hotel room for the weekend. I invited James and Maya to be my guests. I didn't tell my parents there was a ceremony. In late April, my mother called. "Hi, honey. Just checking in. How's everything?" "Good. Busy finishing up some final research projects before I start my postdoc." "Postdoc? That sounds important. Where's that going to be?" "UCSF. I'll be moving to San Francisco in June." "San Francisco, that's wonderful. You'll be so close to Melissa. You two can finally spend more time together." I bit my tongue. Melissa lived in San Francisco, and I'd seen her exactly 0 times in the past 6 years. "So when do you officially graduate?" my mother asked. Here it was, the opening. "I already graduated. The paperwork is done." "Oh, that's it? No ceremony?" "They're doing something small. Nothing worth traveling for." "Well, that's a shame. It would have been nice to see you get your doctorate degree. But I guess with COVID, everything's different now." "Yeah, everything's different." We hung up shortly after. I felt guilty for lying, but I felt more relieved than guilty. Graduation Day, May 21st, 2021. MIT's graduation ceremony for the class of 2021 took place on Killian Court, the iconic lawn framed by the Great Dome. The day was perfect sunny, warm, with a light breeze that kept the heat from being oppressive. I arrived early with Maya and James. We took photos in our regalia, laughing and joking, feeling the weight and joy of the moment. "Dr. Chen," James said dramatically, bowing. "It has such a nice ring to it." "Stop," I laughed. "You're next year." "And I expect you both at my defense," he said, pointing at us. "No excuses." "We'll be there," Maya promised. We wouldn't miss it, because that's what friends do, they show up. The ceremony began at 10 a.m. Unlike my undergraduate graduation, I wasn't scanning the crowd for familiar faces. I wasn't hoping, I wasn't waiting, I was present. When they called the doctoral candidates by name, I walked across that stage with my head high. I shook hands with the MIT president. I received my diploma. The real one, not just a cover, and smiled for the photographer. The applause was loud and genuine. Maya and James were on their feet, cheering like I'd just won an Olympic medal. My advisor was crying. Other faculty members I'd worked with waved and clapped. And it was enough, more than enough. After the ceremony, Maya's parents, who'd flown in from India, took us all to dinner at a fancy Italian restaurant in Boston. They treated me like their own daughter, asking about my research, my plans, my dreams. "You should be very proud," Maya's father said to me over tiramisu. "A PhD from MIT is no small accomplishment." "Thank you, I am proud." And I meant it. That night, back in my apartment, I posted a single photo to social media. Me in my doctoral regalia, smiling genuinely. Caption: Dr. Catherine Chen, PhD in neuroscience, MIT 21, grateful beyond words. Within an hour, I had hundreds of likes and comments from colleagues, mentors, friends, people I'd met at conferences, collaborators from other universities, professors who'd taught me years ago. At 11:47 p.m., my phone rang. My mother. "Katie, I just saw your photo on Facebook. There was a ceremony? You graduated today?" "Yes." "Why didn't you tell us? We would have come." "Would you?" I thought. "Like you came to my Stanford graduation?" "It was small," I said. "I didn't want to make a big deal out of it." "Not a big deal. Katie, it's a PhD from MIT. That's a huge deal. Your father and we're hurt that you didn't tell us." That word hurt landed like a slap. They were hurt? "I have to go," I said. "Katie, wait." I hung up. She called back immediately. I declined the call. She texted, "We need to talk about this. You deliberately excluded us from your own graduation. That's not okay." I turned off my phone and went to bed. Choosing myself. The fallout was predictable. My mother called repeatedly over the next week. I didn't answer. She left voicemails, some angry, some wounded, some confused. I don't understand why you're shutting us out. We've always supported you, Katie. Always. If you're angry about something, you need to tell us. We can't read your mind. That last one almost made me laugh. I'd spent 28 years telling them through words, through actions, through the hurt in my eyes every time they chose Melissa over me. They'd never listened. My father sent a single email. Katie, your mother is very upset. Whatever issues you have, we need to discuss them like adults. Family is family. Call when you're ready to talk. I didn't call. Melissa texted me 3 weeks after graduation. Mom says you're not talking to them. But what did they do now? I replied. They didn't come to my college graduation. They didn't come to my PhD graduation. Because I didn't invite them to the second one, they're upset. Maybe if you'd invited them, they would have come. They chose not to come to the first one. I chose not to invite them to the second one. Actions have consequences. You're being dramatic. They're our parents. Get over it. I blocked her number. I moved to San Francisco in June to start my postdoctoral research at UCSF. The city was beautiful, vibrant, full of possibility. I found an apartment in the Mission District with a bay window and exposed brick. I bought plants. I adopted a cat named Schrodinger. I started running along the Embarcadero at sunrise. I built a life that was entirely mine. Maya moved to Boston for her own postdoc. James stayed at MIT for another year. But we stayed close weekly video calls, group chats, visits when we could manage them. They were my family, the family I chose. In August, I received a letter in the mail, handwritten, from my mother. I almost threw it away without reading it, but curiosity won. Dear Katie, I've been trying to understand why you're so angry with us. Your father and I have talked about it endlessly, and we still don't understand what we did wrong. We've always loved you. We've always supported you. Yes, Melissa needed more attention growing up. She struggled in ways you didn't. She needed more help. That doesn't mean we loved you any less. You were always so independent, so self-sufficient. You never asked for help. You never seemed to need us the way Melissa did. So yes, we focused more on her, but that was because you were fine on your own. I'm sorry we missed your Stanford graduation. I know that hurt you. But Melissa was in crisis that day. We had to make a choice, and we made the one that felt most urgent in the moment. As for your PhD graduation, we would have been there if you'd told us. The fact that you deliberately hid it from us is hurtful and unfair. We deserve the chance to celebrate with you. I don't know what you want from us, Katie. We did our best. We're not perfect parents, but we tried. And all we're asking now is for you to forgive us and let us back into your life. Please call us. Love, Mom. I read that letter 3 times, and then I sat down and wrote a response. Not to send. I knew sending it would accomplish nothing but for myself, to finally articulate everything I'd never said. Mom, you asked what you did wrong. Let me tell you. You taught me that my needs were negotiable, that my accomplishments were less important than Melissa's needs, that asking for attention made me weak and not asking for it made me invisible. You taught me that independence was a punishment disguised as a compliment, that you're so self-sufficient really meant we don't want to make the effort. You missed my Stanford graduation not because of a crisis, but because Melissa wanted to go shopping. That's not a choice. That's a value statement. And what you told me that day was, her wants matter more than your achievements. And here's what I've learned. You will never see me. Not really, because seeing me would require you to acknowledge that you failed me, that you chose comfort over equity, that you gave Melissa everything and gave me the leftovers. You say you did your best. Maybe you did, but your best wasn't good enough. I'm not angry anymore, Mom. I'm just done. Done hoping, done waiting, done making myself small so Melissa can feel big. I didn't invite you to my PhD graduation because I finally learned my worth. And my worth is not measured by whether you show up. I don't need your forgiveness. I don't need your understanding. I just need distance. Goodbye. Katie. I folded that letter, put it in a box with my Stanford diploma and my MIT diploma, and stored it in the back of my closet. And then I moved forward.